misuse, and also to understand what an MIP is and the consequences of getting one. So let's talk about what makes you you. I would like everyone to think of a hobby, a skill, or a pastime that you have and put it into the chat. And I'll give you guys a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds to do that. While you guys are doing that, putting in a skill, hobby, sport, pastime, I will share one of mine. I like to go camping, so that's something I really like to do.
It looks like in the chat we have cooking, gardening, pet rabbits, listening to music, travel.
Awesome, those are some good ones. Thank you all for sharing. So throughout the webinar, I want you all to think about what is important to you, whether it's a person, a possession, an activity, or a life goal, and think about how you can protect the things that are important to you. So what are some different names for drunk? What kind of words do we use instead of drunk on occasion? Hammered, tipsy, buzzed, slammed, lit, wasted, gone. So these are just a few words that we could use instead of drunk, and there are so many more. So why do you guys think we have so many different names for the same thing? Go ahead and put that in the chat if you have any ideas for that. Give a second for people who are typing it out. Why do we have so many names?
Someone has said different effects, so I'm thinking they insinuate different levels, maybe.
Sure.
Is that what they mean by that?
Yep.
Yes, that's a great one. So sometimes these words are used because they're funny, right? They're used in movies, music, and TV. And the words can describe different levels of intoxication, so good job there. For example, buzzed is often used as a word to describe someone who has drank a small amount of alcohol, whereas wasted is usually used to describe someone who has consumed a lot of alcohol.
Someone also said different scenarios. Lit might mean a party. Drunk sounds more like a problem.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great point. Absolutely. All right, so now we are going to talk about the symptoms of someone under the influence. So this is what they look like, what they smell like, how they are acting. So we have stumbling, unbalanced or falling over. They may smell like alcohol. Their words might be slurring, glassy or bloodshot eyes. They're loud, maybe obnoxious, unaware of their surroundings. They're emotional, they might be crying or laughing a lot, unaware of boundaries, and they might be aggressive. So all of these characteristics fall into 3 different categories. So our first one is loss of inhibition. So what is inhibition? It's a feeling that makes someone self-conscious and unable to act in a relaxed and natural way. For example, if you are uncomfortable dancing in public, you might be more inclined to dance in public if you are under the influence because of loss of inhibition. Our second category is impaired judgment. What does this mean? Alcohol impairs the frontal lobes, which are the decision-making parts of your brain. And lastly, we have impaired coordination or reaction time. So this is stumbling and lack of balance. They fall into that category. All right, is alcohol considered a drug? Let me know what you guys think in the chat. Is this a yes or a no? Is alcohol a drug? I'll give people a little bit to answer that one as well. Just a yes or a no, is it a drug?
Have one person say yes.
Yes. Anybody else have any ideas?
Couple more yeses. A lot more yeses.
Awesome. You guys are so good at this already. All right. So yes, it is a drug. So what is a drug? A drug is a substance that changes the way your body functions. So again, the short answer is yes, alcohol is a drug, just like marijuana, prescription painkillers, or any other drug. All right, so now we're going to talk about the standard drink. So there are 3 different ways that people typically consume alcohol. So the 3 different ones are beer, and that includes craft beer, wine, and liquor. So here's our picture of the standard drink. So there are different amounts of alcohol in different kinds of drinks. For example, liquor usually has a lot more alcohol in it than beer. And there are also some beers that have a higher alcohol content than other beers. An example of this is that a beer may be 5% alcohol, but the light version of the same brand will most likely have a lower percentage. Because of this, we need to have a standard drink size. A standard drink is equal to each of the drinks on the screen. So a 12-ounce beer that has 5% alcohol, an 8 to 9 ounce of malt liquor that has 7% alcohol, 5 ounces of wine that has 12% alcohol, and 1.5 ounces of spirits that has 40% alcohol. So although these drinks have a different amount of liquid, they have the same amount of alcohol. Having a standard drink size is helpful for following health guidelines, including estimating when the alcohol you have consumed has filtered out of your body. So we should have a poll question right now. So how many shots are usually in a typical margarita? What do you guys think? Is it 1, 3, or 7? We got about 50% of people voted, so I'll give you guys a couple more seconds. All right. Yep, so we got 71% of people said 3 shots, 29% said 1 shot, and we will get to that soon here, the answer. So how long does the standard drink stay in the body? It takes about 1 hour for one standard drink to filter out of your body. And here's our poll question. How many shots of tequila are in a typical margarita? 3. There's usually 3 shots of liquor in a typical margarita. So that means that there are 3 standard drinks in a typical margarita. And this is why mixed drinks can be dangerous, because you might not know how many drinks are really in your glass. Okay, we have another poll question. Approximately how much longer does it take the liver to filter out alcohol than other organs? Is it 5 times longer, 10 times longer, or 20 times longer? Go ahead and put that in the poll. We'll do a few more seconds. All right. So we got a couple people saying 5 times, most people saying 10 times, and a couple people saying 20 times. And we will, again, go over that soon here. But we're going to talk about the liver, because the liver filters out toxins in your body, and that includes alcohol. So here's our polling question. It takes the liver about 10 times the amount of time as the rest of the body to process alcohol. So while the liver is backed up, alcohol is in the bloodstream. So how do we sober up? Time. Carbo loading doesn't work. Drinking water, drinking coffee, those don't work. It's only time. All right, now we're going to talk about BAC, blood alcohol content. So your BAC is the percentage of alcohol you have in your body. So what are the legal BAC limits? In Iowa, for 21 and older, it is 0.08. The law is at 0.08 because that is when you usually start to feel the physical symptoms of intoxication, such as loss of coordination. So at what point do you start feeling mental impairment, such as emotional outbursts? 0.05 BAC. And some states have actually moved 0.05 to the legal limit because of this. As you can see, Utah has done that. So in Utah, for 21 and older, the legal limit is 0.05. So what about for minors? What is the legal limit? Most would assume it's 0, but it's actually 0.02. This does not mean that if you're under 21 and drink a beer, you'll be at this level. If you drink a standard drink, you will be higher than 0.02. This is just 0.02 is just flex room for religious reasons if you have communion, and some mouthwashes have alcohol in it. And also not all states have this rule. Some states have, it is 0%, but in Iowa it's 0.02. All right, now we're gonna do a true or false activity before Emily takes over. We're just gonna have a couple, and if you guys can, answer in the chat. So our first one is true or false. Go ahead and put that in the chat.
Got a lot of falses.
Yep, you betcha. It's false. Alcohol is a depressant, so it actually slows you down. Our next one, anyone can stop drinking anytime if they.
Once again, we're getting a lot of falses.
All right. Absolutely. Yep, false. Alcohol is an addictive substance. Physical addiction is when the body needs a substance to function normally. Psychological addiction is when alcohol becomes the central part of one's life. Last one. Teen brains don't finish developing until the early 20s, making teen brains vulnerable to damage from alcohol use. Is that true or false?
We got some trues coming in.
Yep. Good job. True. Drinking alcohol while the brain is still developing can lead to long-lasting deficits in cognitive abilities, including learning and memory. All right, so that is my portion of the presentation. I'm going to have Emily take over. Thank you all for participating.
All right, so the next section, we're gonna kind of be thinking about what does it even mean to drink responsible? We hear this all the time at the end of commercials for beer when we're watching sports events or for restaurants promotions for happy hour, but what does it really mean to drink responsibly, or how can people participate in low risk drinking? So there's actually really simple guidelines to follow to understand what it means to participate in low risk drinking. It's just 0, 1, 2, 3. And these numbers correspond with the amount of alcoholic drinks that one should have. So for 0, who should not have any alcoholic beverages? Well, minors should not have any alcoholic beverages because of the brain's not fully developing yet, and it can have long-lasting damage. Can hurt the developing baby. People who are on certain medications, sometimes alcohol can interact with medications and exacerbate the effects of that medication. So it can get really dangerous, especially if that medicine is a painkiller or something else that's a depressant, because alcohol is also a depressant. They can slow someone down too much. So it's really important to abstain from alcohol if you are on certain medications. And of course, if there's any questions on that, talk to a physician. And people who should not have any alcohol are those with substance misuse problems. So one drink, who can have one drink? Well, people who are 21 and over. And this means one drink over the course of an hour. However, that does not mean that one should have 24 drinks in a day, because that's what the number 2 is. There's a max drinks of 2 per day if you are 21 and older. 1 drink each hour. So 2 drinks spread over the course of 2 hours, 1 drink each hour. So why is 3 on there? Well, the low risk drinking guidelines say that 3 drinks in a given day, each consumed over the course of 1 hour, so can be allowed every once in a while. So sometimes we have celebrations, weddings, holidays, major sporting events, and the low risk drinking guidelines say that's okay to have 3 drinks in a given day as long as they're every once in a while. So where do these numbers come from? Well, alcohol's been around for a very long time, and that has given people a long time to study the effects of alcohol. Scientists notice that those people who have on average more than 3 drinks in a day have a much higher risk of developing liver diseases. So that's kind of where the numbers 0, 1, 2, 3 come from, because they noticed that those who had more than 3 drinks average on a given day had higher risks for liver diseases and liver issues. Over the course of 1 week, one should not consume more than 7 standard drinks. Again, this comes from liver disease studies. So next we're going to talk about a minor in possession. What is a minor in possession, or an MIP? It is someone who is a minor or under 21 in possession of a substance that is not legal for them to be in possession of. We will now go over 3 scenarios, and there will be a polling question at the end asking which scenario could result in an MIP charge. So the first scenario. You're driving your parents' car with some friends, as well as your older brother, who is 20 years old. There is one empty bottle of wine, and 1 full bottle of wine in the back seat. A cop pulls you over for a taillight being out and sees the bottle of wine. Could you get charged with an MIP? And hold off on that polling question for just a second, because we're going to go over the other 2 before we answer that. All right, scenario 2. You're walking home one night after drinking a few beers at a friend's house. You did not drink a lot, but you are swaying a little bit. A cop stops you on your way home and can smell beer on your breath. Can you get charged with an MIP? The last scenario, you're at a party with some of your classmates. You are not drinking, but a couple of kids have brought some alcohol with them and they are consuming it. Some cops show up and bust the party. The kids who are drinking are charged with MIPs, but then the cops turn to you. You weren't drinking. Could they charge you with an MIP? So now that polling question should pop up, and which one of those scenarios could result in an MIP? Give a couple more seconds for people to answer. All right, yeah, very good. All of you said that all of the above, and that's correct. Any of those situations could result in an MIP charge. So we're just going to review those really quick. There are 3 ways to get an MIP. If you have alcohol literally in your possession. So this could mean if you have it in your backpack, in a car that you're driving, in your hand, in your locker, anything that is something that you own that can be in your possession. If you have alcohol in it as well, you can get charged with an MIP. The second way is if you are visibly intoxicated. Police or public official can tell that you've been drinking alcohol, you can be charged with an MIP. And the third one, which is very important to understand, if you're at a party with alcohol, even if you aren't consuming it, this means you have to be smart about your own choices as well as the people you hang out with. It doesn't matter if you were drinking it or not. If you're at a party with other minors who are consuming alcohol, you can still get charged with an MIP. So now we're going to brainstorm some consequences of getting an MIP. What do you think can happen if you, could you hit the next button, please? Thank you. How could an MIP charge impact college admissions or scholarship opportunities? You can write some of these in the chat of what are some ways you think that an MIP charge could impact those. We'll give everyone a few more seconds to finish typing. So imagine that you're filling out a scholarship opportunity and it asks for a criminal background check. How do you think that if you have an MIP on your application as opposed to someone who doesn't, how do you think that MIP charge could impact that?
We have someone say loss of family and friends. An MIP can put scholarship opportunities in jeopardy. They will give the scholarship to others who don't have an MIP. You could get kicked off of sports teams. Social stigma.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, an MIP charge, it might seem like nothing at the time, but it can have long-lasting consequences that could prevent future opportunities from arising. Remember how we said that how can we protect the things that matter to us? Our hobbies, our future, our job. We want to think about those things as positive and exciting things, and we don't want anything to jeopardize the things that we care about.
We had someone add good conduct violations impacting school and sports.
Definitely. If you're on the sports team at school, you don't want to get kicked off of that. It's a lot of friends and fun on those teams, and you wouldn't want to do anything that jeopardizes that. So this is kind of a poster that says what could get thrown away when you drink underage? What gets crushed? Underage drinking comes at a cost. There's cans that are crushed that say your future, life, trust, GPA, reputation, dreams, college plans, friendship, team. So once again, just really be thinking about that question we asked at the beginning where what can we do? How can our choices that we make impact our future in a way that allows us to protect the hobbies and relationships that matter to us? So this is the website for Your Life Iowa. We just wanted to throw this in really quick. So Your Life Iowa is kind of your one-stop shop for everything that you might need for mental health and substance misuse help as well. It has an online chat as well as a call center where you can call or text and get help on substance misuse issues as well as mental health help. And these are really stressful times, so it's really important that we know where these resources are that we can go to if we were to need them. All right, does anybody have any questions in the group chat for us today? You can unmute yourself or you can type them in the chat.
We have plenty of, oh, here we go. Can we get a copy of the PowerPoint?
Yeah, I think we should be able to send out a copy of this PowerPoint.
Um, Haley, do you know how we would do that?
We can send it out through the sources that originally sent this meeting out. So we can most likely post it. Otherwise, if you put your email in the chat, if you would like it, we can send it directly to you.
Sounds good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody have any more questions? We have plenty of time.
We have a question. The question comes from Jamie. Do you find that talking to students about the realities of underage drinking reduces the instances?
So we poll the students usually after a presentation to see if they have learned or they feel like they've learned about the risks. I'm not super familiar with the history of MIP charges with alcohol in the area, so it would be hard to track that data. But we do really try to see if they have learned something from the presentation. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, the main, when we talk to teens about underage drinking, our main goal is to make sure that they've learned something and that we give them the resources to make choices that are best for them. So, it is hard to track after we do that, but when we survey them, we ask, if they've learned something and if they have any comments or questions. And we usually get really good feedback from them. Any other questions?
One thing I would add really quickly is research that is out around prevention. We know that research kind of comes a little bit later in terms of prevention, but what we do know is that the earlier we're able to have these conversations with the youth in our lives, the more of a positive aspect it will have in their lives. So we do know getting in and doing prevention services does impact it. We don't necessarily know exactly what that level is. We just know that starting early and having these conversations can be really beneficial.
Gabby asks, will talking about drinking make them more likely to drink? Short answer is most likely no. Teens know about drinking and they don't always have the right information. So we give them that information. So yeah, no, it does not make them more likely to drink.
Just to reiterate kind of what Haley was saying, prevention research has shown that the more conversations that are had, especially at earlier ages, the more impact it can have further down the lifespan.
All right, so we've ended quite a bit early, but Emily and I will stay on for a little bit. If anybody has any extra questions they'd like to ask that they didn't want to ask the whole group. So otherwise, we hope you all have a good day. Thank you so much for joining us. And stay safe out there.
What does SUD and PG treatment mean?
Substance use disorder and problem gambling treatments.
Gotcha. Thank you.
No worries.
That's a good question. Prevention has a lot of, acronyms like that, and it's kind of hard to follow sometimes.
I think most areas do, and unless you're in that area.
That could be true for sure.
What was the PG again?
Problem gambling.
Problem gambling?
Gambling.
Your Life Iowa also has resources to help with gambling addiction disorders too.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Guess that's it. Is this going to be posted anywhere afterwards for our kids to look at, or?
Yes,
So-
we are recording it and it will be posted to the EFR Prevention's YouTube page. We will also link it to the different Facebooks that we have posted it to. So we'll be able to get it out to everybody who saw it through our promotion.
You probably said that at the beginning, but I wasn't here yet, so I'm sorry about that if you
Nope,
did.
I don't think we did. So I'm glad that
Okay.
you asked that.
All right. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Oh, in the chat to everyone, if you didn't see, Nikki, one of our colleagues, posted the YouTube page. We did a training yesterday as well, and we will continue each day of this week. So they will all be posted as soon as we can get those up.
Thank you, Nikki.
Okay, as we're not seeing any more questions, we're gonna go ahead and end this. We hope to see you all again tomorrow at the same time for our next training. Thank you. Have a great day.